Professor Welshman, your 12 clients reportedly submitted nomination papers after 4 p.m. Why?
It is simply not true that the papers were submitted after 4. The papers were submitted just before 3:30. That is the truth. They were
all of them.
handed by all of them. The all 12 were handed at one go by Honorable Masham, who is the deputy chief. She was the one assigned that responsibility. They were handed in at approximately 3:25. That's a fact. And no one in all the court cases have been able to prove that they were not handed at that time. Even this case that we lost, the people who say they were not handed at the correct time were not in court. They were never there. These are people who say we read in the social media, we heard, but they were not there. The people who were there say they were handed on time. The SEC said they were handed on time. The candidates who handed them in say they handed them on time. So that's not a valid criticism. You may criticize why we didn't hand them in on Monday, because we could have handed them in on Monday. We could have handed them in on Tuesday. You could criticize as to why we didn't hand them in at 10. You could criticize that why with the papers in Harare or on the Wednesday and they only arrived in Bulawayo at midday. You can criticize that, but you can't criticize the fact that they were definitely handed in before 4.
Are they appealable grounds, and are the candidates going to appeal?
Of course we are appealing. It's given. That's given. We're appealing.
And is there hope before election day? Because we saw a video of ZANU-PF members already celebrating that they've now won uncontestedly.
Well, it's also not true that they've won uncontested, because there are other constituencies where they didn't challenge those who were contesting, other candidates who were contesting them. But let's as far as I'm concerned, I argued this case together with Taban. I am satisfied that the court was wrong in its conclusions on the preliminary points. I'm satisfied that the court was wrong on the merits. I'm satisfied that if we have a fair hearing at the Supreme Court, we should prevail.
Wow, here we are, viewers, witnesses. It's a very good evening to you, and we have joining us tonight two analysts here, and there's an article that Dr. Masimba Mavaza has published a few minutes ago, and that article he is giving his legal opinion. Dr. Mavaza, good evening to you.
Good evening, Simba. Good evening, Zimbabwe. And good evening, Mr. Mkori. Simba, I had a special request from a lecturer called Herbert Kawadza. He wants me to say good evening to him personally. So
thank you. Right. Is it Dr. Herbert Kawadza?
Yes, it is Dr. Herbert Kawadza.
Right. Oh, Dr. Herbert Kawadza, good evening to you, and thank you for joining us. Greetings to you, sir. Wow. Thank you very much. Dr.
Off the mic, yes.
Right. So, will the courts be fair on the CCC? We know that the CCC 12 lost their case yesterday, but then they are appealing. They've already appealed. And by consequence of law and by consequence of procedure, they are still on the ballot. Now, the question tonight is, will the courts be fair? Were they fair, and will they be fair? Shall we start with Wilbert? Let's start maybe with Wilbert, because Dr. Mavaza, this is your article. So we are debating you. So let's hear from Wilbert first, and then we'll have you on the defense.
Thank you, Simba.
Thank you. Wilbert.
My understanding of your interview, Simba, with Professor Welshman Nube is that the the nomination papers were submitted before the deadline of 4 o'clock. The only issue there, the way I understand it, is why they were submitted so late, because the processing itself, I understand, lasted until about midnight. And therefore, then one would say, well, they should have been brought in a bit earlier. And why were they not brought in earlier? And it was not only one nomination paper here, it was for the 12 of them. So that would be probably the contention. And I take it with the High Court judge was being asked to judge on whether it was reasonable that they were only handed in so late when they had had all the opportunity to be submitted and checked on Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday morning from whatever time the nomination court opened, and only to be handed in with 35 minutes left to process them. And my understanding is that the nomination fee was not paid until the following morning, because by 12 midnight, when the checking was done, it wasn't possible to make the payment of the nomination fees. So I think that is the issue that the courts were deciding on. I believe that if it had been a ZANU-PF candidate, the courts would have just shrugged it off. It doesn't matter. That's not the most important thing. We are here to encourage people to participate in the electoral process. This is of such paramount importance that, yes, okay, the nomination court was forced to stay on for much longer than was anticipated, but that is not a big thing. So I think that would be the case. But given that it is the opposition and the courts in Zimbabwe are not, let's be honest about it, are not independent, they're captured, will they be tolerant of the opposition?
Yes, will they be fair? Absolutely. That's the question.
Yeah. In this case here, it's most unlikely.
Right. Oh, thank you very much. Dr. Mafaza, this is your article. And just perusing your piece, I see that you are of the strongest belief that this is a justice in motion. This is right. What was done at the High Court in Kwabulawayo, and yet a lot of people are in disagreement with you, and these include the lawyer, the solicitor for these CCC 12. Why on earth are you convinced that this is justice, and will there be justice? We are only 4 weeks, if less than 4 weeks now, 23 days, I think. Is it 24, 25 days to elections? Are we going to see fairness?
Simba, justice is not to do what Triple C wants. Justice is to do what the law says. The nomination day is a creation of the law. It's a constitutional creation. So there has to be a nomination day. And the nomination day has a deadline. It has a deadline for a reason. And the deadline is so that you all prepare, do what you have to do by the time given and no further. And therefore, when the nomination date was announced, nomination courts were appointed, were established. Triple C knew very well that there will be nomination day on this date, and the deadline is 4 o'clock. The fact that the nomination court set beyond 4 o'clock does not make that legal. The court was wrong to sit beyond 4, and the court, the Triple C members were wrong to go and submit their applications after 4. So even if they'd gone to go there at 1 second after 4, the law has been made for a purpose. the strict application of the law, it shows that we as Zimbabweans, Zimbabwean legal system, we are very, very, very accurate as far as times are concerned. And that shows that we follow the rule of law. So it is not an aspect, it is a shame that people are looking at this issue with a political spectacle. This has nothing to do with politics. This is the law. The people have been told they knew from 2018, Simba, Triple C knew there will be elections in 2023. They should have prepared their things by now. But you know what? Chamisa stood up and came up and said there will be his strategy is called a strategy of ambiguity, meaning that he does not know what his strategy is. Even Ostalos does not even know what the strategy was. That's why he could not even submit his application, his nomination on time. So the failure to keep time, the failure to keep to the pen, to the spirit of the law, is not the failure of ZANU-PF. And therefore, the fact that they've done it wrong and they were actually motivated by the fact that the court was still sitting, it does not mean that it was right what they were doing. And again, it is wrong for my brother Wilbert to believe that if it was a ZANU-PF candidate, then the issue will be different. No, it will not be different. It will be the same. The law is not for ZANU-PF. Neither is the law for Triple C. The law is the law. The law is no color. The law is no party. The law is not dressed in yellow, neither is it dressed in green. And I could tell you, Simba and Mr. Mkori, as Dr. Herbert Kawadza would say, that ZANU-PF is the most law-abiding party on earth. And I agree with him because it is. So ZANU-PF candidates submitted their nominations on time. So we cannot leave, we cannot say it in any way that this is a bias. No, we would want to accuse ZANU-PF for bias. We want to accuse ZANU-PF for everything. But ZANU-PF is not the court. It is not the judge. It is not the law. ZANU-PF is a candidate as much as Triple C is. It's a party to this. It's a party to this election. It is again. It will have been unfair if these guys were allowed to submit their documents a minute after 4 or beyond. That was going to be very unfair on ZANU-PF who have done theirs on time, because we're all given the same 5 years to prepare for this time. We've been given 5 years to prepare for this day, 5 years to prepare for this date. If a party fails to prepare itself for this date in 5 years, how would they prepare themselves to be government of a country if they can't even govern a constituency? You see, the inefficiency of Triple C does not reflect on ZANU-PF. It reflects on their own disorganization and misguiding. Because we have talked about this all along, that Triple C is confused. Chamisa is behaving like a pastor who, when he preaches, people must say amen and believe him. But that's not what happens in court. There is no pastoral powers in court. In court, there is the law.
Can we have a
follow
discussion here? I thought
And,
we were coming for a discussion.
I
Yeah,
don't
let
know.
let him end his delivery, and then we can go full on. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. I'm landing now. My brother Wilbert, can you cool down, please? I'm landing, and the point here, Wilbert, I'm now responding to you directly. You always believe ZANU-PF has a hand in the justice system. No, it does not have a hand. It is actually controlled by the law. It does not tell the judges what to do. The judges do not belong to ZANU-PF. Neither do they belong to the Ministry of Justice. They are under JSC, which is not party of ZANU-PF. And therefore, it is wrong, Wilbert, to start the emotional blackmail and inciting people of Zimbabwe to say they are being shortchanged by ZANU-PF. This has nothing to do with ZANU-PF. We must actually, let me tell you in conclusion, Wilbert, I am celebrating that we have got 12 seats already, and we are so happy about it. Do you understand that? So this is my point, Simba.
Right, Wilbert, shoot.
Well, I'm just reading here from Dr. Mawaza's article. We all know that His Excellency President E.D. Mnangagwa announced the date for the harmonized elections in Zimbabwe as the 23rd of August 2023. Consequently, the deadline time and date for submission of candidature for contesting the elections will be 21st June 2023 at 1600 hours. The political parties and prospective parliamentary candidates knew these dates for months. The issue here, from my understanding, Simba, of Professor Weltman Ngube, was that the nomination papers were not submitted after 4 o'clock. They were submitted at 15:25. So I don't know where Mawaza is getting this issue that they were submitted after 4. I'm only going by what Professor Weltman Ngube said. So I think we need to get over that. If it was after 4 o'clock, I totally agree with him. If the law says you should be there in time, that is the law, you know. But in this particular case, they were submitted before 4 o'clock. So we cannot argue at cross purpose here if we agree on the facts that are on the ground. And I would like to believe that Professor Weltman Ngube is telling the truth, because he was the lawyer who was there. He was a sworn court official in this matter. And I don't see why he would be telling us something else. That is my understanding of it, Simba. I don't know whether I got it wrong there.
Okay, thank you, Wilbert. Here's the point, Wilbert. Professor Ngube is saying they submitted on time. What is he calling on time? He says it is on time because the court was still sitting. Yes, the court set beyond 4 o'clock. That's not on time. The court was wrong. The nomination court was erred in sitting beyond the deadline. That's what the judge said. The judge said the fact that the court was still sitting and accepted the nominations of the Triple C after the deadline does not make it right. It was wrong. It was entirely wrong. And
No,
therefore,
Mawaza, listen to what Professor Weltman Ngube said. They were handed to ZEC at 15:25. That's not after 4.
no, they were supposed to hand it to the nominating court, not to ZEC.
ZEC official were part of the nomination court processes. And there is, I think, Simba,
okay,
let's
avoid the dialogue.
Let me finish, Mawaza.
You can't ask
let
for
me finish the
permission
point.
to abuse me.
Let me finish the point.
No, but you finished your point while I was listening.
Davis from one of the ZEC officials saying the papers were handed in before 4 o'clock.
No, that's not it, Wilbert. The argument which they are putting, which is in court, which is written down, is that the court was still sitting. They handed it on time. What they are calling on time is the time when the court was still sitting. But the court set beyond the deadline. That's why the court says you are not, you were beyond the time. You had missed the deadline. And again, we cannot take the word said by Professor Ngube outside court. Don't forget, Professor Ngube is the vice president of Triple C. There is no way he could say things against his party, even if he knows they are wrong. His professional self and his political self are two different people. A Professor Ngube in court and a Professor Ngube out of court are two different people. And therefore, you cannot say Professor Ngube cannot lie. He is the vice president of Triple C, and he talks on behalf of his party. And he wants his people to win, because that's his constituents too. So the fact that it is Ngube who spoke does not make it right. The truth of the matter.
I think we don't need to argue in circles, yes, Simba. I don't know whether you still have the affidavits from the ZEC official.
The affidavits do not make it correct, but look at the affidavits. They don't say it was
listen,
time.
Listen, Malaza, I'm surprised you're arguing on a point that you as a lawyer should understand. If it's a sworn statement, it's an affidavit, you submit it in a court of law, then if you are saying that ZEC official submitted a false statement, that is another matter. You know,
it is another matter. That's why it will be dealt with.
For the sake of the argument we want to present.
Wilbert, now give me a chance to finish. You have been interjecting. When I start talking, then you say I'm talking alone. I need you to give me a chance to finish. I don't know where you get this spirit of talking when somebody's talking. We can only sing together, but we can't talk together. So give me a chance. Here is my chance. And I'm telling you, Wilbert, the court said it clearly. The judge said it clearly that for the two, you remember the other case, the other one won his case because he submitted on time. And he was told to go and correct something. When he came back, it was after 4. And the court says the time he submitted first time is what they consider. And therefore, he was not late, even though he came late to correct the corrected papers. But that was accepted. But the others, they came after 4. Whatever the affidavits are talking about, they gave a police officer outside the court their documents. That police officer is not a member of ZEC. And even if he was not the nominating court, the people were supposed to be themselves and their papers in front of the nominating officers in court and then submit their documents. They didn't do that. They gave somebody else. What for? And that somebody else who was given at whatever time it was, he only took those documents before the courts after 4 o'clock. And that's where the bone of contention is. The court cannot tell you that you came after 4 when you came before 4. The court cannot go out there and lie. The judge was not there. He was simply relying on the facts which were brought in before him. And that included the affidavits you are talking about. So the fact that the affidavit says we gave an officer of ZEC who was standing by the door at the court, which year is this one? You rely on a man standing by the door of a court when there are officers inside, when the court is inside. Why would you give people outside to do your job for you? It shows the disorganization of CCC. If they rely in giving a person, a third party, your documents to lodge them for you, what was the purpose of you being there?
Can I answer now, Maraza? Can I answer it? Because there's no point in you rambling on when we are saying the same thing. My understanding is the ZEC officials' affidavits is referring to the documents we are talking about here. And that affidavits, my understanding of it, I'm not a lawyer, I don't pretend to be a lawyer, but my understanding of it is that those documents were handed in before 4 o'clock. So unless you're talking of separate documents as well, because if it is the same documents, then it's either that affidavit is wrong or the guy was lying, or we're talking of something totally different. If we're talking of the same thing, then I have got to rely on that affidavit. I wasn't there. I also have to rely on somebody like Professor Welshman Nuwe. If you think he was lying, that is your view. I have no reason to believe he was lying. He stated in that interview with Simba.
So what reason do you have that I'm lying? What reason?
1525.
Then you close that mouth for a minute.
Disbelieve him. Why should I disbelieve him?
Listen, you want to talk alone. That's not the purpose of the argument. My question is, I've told you a point. The affidavit does not mean it's true because it's signed. It is the fact. And he's saying to quote what I'm saying is the truth. And what they said is they gave a police officer outside, not inside. They know they've been having elections. They know how to to lodge to submit nomination papers. You don't give them to an officer standing by the door. You go inside, you follow the laws, you follow the protocol and the rules. They did not. And by the time it was given to the nominating court, it was after 4. And that is the bone of contention. The judge cannot say, give a ruling and say you were late when they were right. The judge is not biased. He has nothing to win or to lose in this case. He simply has to stand by the truth. That's why he said the facts, the facts have to be stated, and the evidence has to be looked from what has been submitted by both sides. And the judge was satisfied that the documents were lodged after 4 o'clock. So whatever Professor Ncube says, it's a matter of an appeal. And I have said to you, you should have reasons of not trusting Professor Ncube, because he's the vice president of Triple C, and whatever he's saying, he cannot stand up and give an interview to say we are wrong, but we are still going to appeal. It doesn't make sense. So he has to pretend that he's right, so that he can still believe in his lies when he goes to the appeal. But the truth is stubborn. It's not changed by your confidence. The truth remains the truth. You cannot change.
I think we are just arguing in circles here.
I don't know where you see circles from, because you have.
I think in this particular case, when he says that the documents were submitted at 15:25, he did not mean, unless he was deliberately trying to mislead people, that they were submitted to somebody outside the court.
The
nomination court. Let me finish the point.
No, there's no point. You are only saying one thing.
It was not an official who was involved in the nomination process. It was just a police officer outside. And therefore, then, when that police officer took them in, it was already after 4 o'clock. If that was what happened, that's another matter. The interview with Simba and Professor Welshman Ncube does not say that. It says that they were handed to the nomination court at 15:25. So that is the only information I have on which I base my arguments. So if you know better than I don't know. Maybe you know better, more information than I do. All I'm saying to you is my argument is based on what Professor Welshman Ncube said.
Wait.
Him. That is your problem. It's not my
problem. Don't pretend to be insane. Professor Ncube, you are relying on an interview, not on the documents. The documents are very clear, and the court judgment is very clear. When we finish this, I'm going to share with you the full judgment. I have it here. Read the judgment. The judge quoted from both sides. He said the documents were given to a police officer outside the entrance of the court. Why did they do that? Nobody knows. And the officer took his time and gave them these things to the nominating court presiding officer after 4. Actually, it was just 5 minutes after 4. It might be 2 minutes after 4, but it was after 4. That was the deadline. My point, Wilbert, is I know you are an understanding man, and you know that. But you know that you are a strict man too. You cannot support people who have been given 5 years to prepare for elections and fail on the last minute because they were inefficient. They know they don't have to give a police officer standing outside. They were supposed to go and submit it to the clerk of court inside the court. And why did they give these documents outside? Why did they give them as a lump, as one heap of papers? Why not to be individual submitting individual
again, you are trying to put words into my mouth. I told you that I can only base my opinion on what I have seen.
You are basing your opinion on an interview.
Let me finish. I've seen the affidavits from the ZEC official, and I've listened to the interview that Simba had with Professor Welshman Ncube. That is the information I have. If you are telling us that you have got more information on it, make it available. I'm not arguing that the document may have been given outside the nomination court, because I don't know that.
Sorry, Wilbert. Today we only have 30 minutes, and we will now need closing remarks, and we will schedule another one for Saturday evening. And I think it will be important for this debate to get into possibly even Sunday. But yeah, who will
Yes.
start now? Shall we have Wilbert? Do you want to give us your closing remarks, and then Dr. Mavaza shuts with his 1 minute as well. 1 minute to you, Wilbert, and then Dr. Mavaza 1 minute.
Sure. I think the point here is if you listen to Professor Welshman-Nuwe's interview, the documents were handed to the nomination court at 3:25. That is not after 4 o'clock. And so if we have got more information, let's put it on the table. We should not be arguing about the information was handed in. One says it's after 4 o'clock. The other one says it was not after 4 o'clock. So if we've got the evidence, we want the evidence to prove it. That is all we are saying here. I have no side to support. I have nothing, no axis to grind with ZANU-PF or Triple C. All I'm saying is let's base it on the evidence. And the evidence I have is based on the interview that I've seen of Professor Welshman-Nuwe. I have no reason to believe that he was telling me a fab. I believe what he said. The documents were handed in at 25 minutes past 3. That is not after 4 o'clock. That is all.
Thank you, Wilbert.
Yes, Dr. Mavaza. Yeah.
In conclusion, let me say, Wilbert, the issues before the court were whether these documents were submitted before 4 o'clock or after 4 o'clock. The judge had the advantage of seeing both sides' affidavits from the police, ZEC, and bear in mind, ZEC was supporting the Triple C in this case. It's strange, ZEC was on the side of those Triple C candidates because ZEC was saying it was within time. And they said they said it was within time. They said it's within time because the court was still sitting. But the law was very clear. The judge was very clear. He said the law is 4 o'clock, not anything after that. And therefore, some few of the candidates have given their documents to a police officer at the gate of the court. That's not the court. And this officer, whatever happened between the gate and the inside of the court, he took his switch time until it was after 4 o'clock. And then that was wrong. And that officer was wrong, the court was wrong, the Triple C members were wrong. So the High Court said all those three, ZEC, the court, and the Triple C, were wrong. They've filed, they've assisted each other in that, and who suffered most is Triple C. And what I'm saying here, Wilbert, and Zimbabweans, wherever you are, we are saying Triple C made their torn bed and they are sleeping in it. It is their fault. They should have submitted these documents early in the morning. Why did they wait for the last minute? Of all these years, they knew they were preparing for these elections. They knew everything was ready. They had their candidates. Why did they wait for the last minute? We cannot support that. You cannot stand up there and say it's right because it is Triple C. It was wrong. People must always learn to be prepared because this is what they were waiting for. They should have submitted this thing early in the morning. The moment the court was opened, submit it. And I said to you, Mr. Mkori, I want you to, I'll send you the full judgment. I'll send you the affidavits. When we continue with this topic tomorrow, I want us to discuss when you are talking from the point of understanding and the point of knowledge. Because today you were just mumbling, saying something because you just love Welshman-Nuwe, which was wrong. So I need you to look at the position of the law, which we'll discuss on when we meet tomorrow. So in conclusion, I agree fully with the High Court decision and the ruling. And I am actually want to congratulate the ZANU-PF candidates who have now won those constituencies, especially Professor Mutuli Ncube, who is now a member of parliament, waiting just confirmation, and the other 11. So yes, congratulations to ZANU-PF. We are now leading 12-0. And if you can talk and talk and talk, unless you can follow the law, keep the deadlines, you'll continue losing. Thank you, Simba.
Thank you very much,
That's
Dr.
good.
And I think we're also gonna need.
benefit.
Yeah, just hold on a little bit. We're going to need also someone from CCC tomorrow, and I think because it's not fair for them to be discussed in this fashion, and they can't defend themselves, because I know definitely, especially the last point there of delay. They did it strategically. It was for, they say, look, their position is that they were being ambushed. They're still being ambushed in all this double candidate um, arrangement. They have to delay until the moment, the specific timely moment when they can best also cross-check for those fraudulent entries in the database. So anyway, folks, we will need to shut. I'm going to try and be disciplined
That's
today so
Simba.
that we stick to our time.
Just the last word
No,
there.
Simba, don't
Yes,
give him a chance. Because
We'll
Wilbert always does that.
Mawaza, let me finish.
No,
All I'm
Wilbert, let's
saying
talk
there
tomorrow.
is, I
Why do you
think
want
the
to have a
people
chance
who were
always?
listening out there
No,
would like to see the
Wilbert,
evidence
you are
themselves.
wrong. I
If
will
you
not
can
allow
send
that.
it to
Wilbert,
Simba, he
I
can
will not
put it
allow that.
on the media so everybody can
Gents,
see it.
we're going to have this time. I think we're going to have to make it an hour, right? For Saturday evening, will have to be an
Yes.
hour so that we can really munch this stuff. But thank you very much, folks. This is the beat here, and Dr. Mavaza's article is on the website. He is celebrating together with ZANU-PF. He says the CCC tried to rig, and they were receiving help from ZEC to rig the elections. Am I right, Dr. Mavaza?
Yes,
I'm
you are
hoping
very
I'm
right.
using the words correctly there. This is
Yes.
his article, and he believes that the ruling is justice. Do you agree? Let's catch up tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Saturday, British time. Thank you. Oh, by the way, there's some people who were trying to come in on spaces. I apologize. We could not accommodate much. I tried to add a few people here, but unfortunately, I think they got dropped. Let's catch up later on. Please do click the link and digest the article. Come back. The author will be here on Saturday night. Thank you.
Thank you,
Here we
Simba.
go.
Happy Sabbath, Wilbert.
Thank you, folks.
Well,
This is Zemi Media, broadcasting all around the world, on the spot, on the dot.
Felix, that.
Let me tell you this. Those who discourage you
Super Tanga.
Right, we've got people and we could space Mavamawanda. Brighton, you wanted to say something as we shut. Oh dear.
Simba, if you get that information from Mawaza, could you post it on Zimai?
Which information, by the way, Ubet?
He's saying that he's going to send information on the High Court's judgment. Which courts?
Oh yes. I think he said the actual full judgment, right?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to get it, because if he publishes it, then the people will be better informed. You know,
Absolutely. Let me forward you the full judgment here.
It's
Cheers.
posted on Zimai. I could read it there.
Yes, I'm sending you now. Thank you.
Okay.